Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury has informed me that they have reached a verdict. I'm going to bring them back in. They have the verdict, and then I will read it. Eddie. Good evening now. My understanding is you have reached a verdict. Is that correct? Who, by number, which number is the foreperson? Okay. Would you hand the verdicts to Eddie? Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have the verdicts. I'm about to announce those. I want everyone in the courtroom to remain quiet. There should be no outburst. And I need you to be silent because the deputy, if you cannot be silent, you need to go outside. With regard to David Jared Booker, if you would please stand. McCrae. State of Georgia versus David Jared Booker, indictment number 22B4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Mr. Collins, if you'll please stand. State of Georgia versus Miles Collins, indictment number 22B4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Mr. Hewley, would you please stand? State of Georgia versus Josiah Hewley Jr., indictment number 22B 4072-4. Count 1, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 4, aggravated assault. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 5, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 6, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 7, felony murder. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 8, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 9, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty. Anything from the defense before? Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right. Are we seated in number? No. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would just stand when I call your number, if you know your number. Juror number 1. Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict for Mr. David Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict against Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 1, you heard me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Okay. Juror number 2. Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict of David Jared Booker. Was that your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Juror number 2, is it still your verdict? Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict against Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 2, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 3. Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 3, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr. Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Juror number 4. Juror number 4, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
You heard me read the verdict Miles Collins.
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
You heard me read the verdict of Josiah Hewley Jr.
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 5. Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins.
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Juror number 5, you heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, juror number 5. Juror number 6. Okay.
Call the last name.
Okay. Let me step off the bench and get the, I don't want to call them, you have, okay, thank you. Thank Thank you very much. Can I write on this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Betty. Juror number 6 was excused. Juror number 7. Juror number 7, you heard me read the verdict of David Jared Booker. Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes, ma'am.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
You heard me read the verdict of Miles Collins.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 8. Oh, I'm sorry. Juror number 7. I'm sorry. Juror number 7. You heard me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.
Yes.
Is this the verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 8. Juror number 8. Did you hear me read the verdict, David Jared Booker?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict? Juror number 8, you heard me read the verdict for Miles Collins.
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
You heard me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.
Yes.
Was that your verdict? Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Did you make this freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 9. Juror number 9, did you hear me read the verdict for David Jared Booker?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Did you make it freely and voluntarily?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 9, did you hear me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 10. Juror number 10, did you hear me read the verdict against David Jared Booker?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Did you hear me read the verdict against Miles Collins?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict, juror number 9?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 10. Who do you have as juror number 10? Oh. That's 10. Oh, I just read 10. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Juror number 11. Juror number 11, you were the foreperson, correct? Did you hear me read the verdict for David Booker?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Juror number 11, is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 11, did you hear me read the verdict for Josiah Hewley Jr.?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. Juror number 11. Alternate number 1, which would be our juror number 12.
Your Honor, we got out of sequence.
Yes, we did. I think we did get out of sequence. I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
Number 12 is next, and then 13.
So who you called, I'm sorry, Your Honor, who you
Yeah.
called alternate is juror number 12, alternate is juror number 13.
13.
Please.
Right, so juror number 12, sorry, because juror number 6 was excused. Thank you. Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict for David Jared Booker?
Yes.
And was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it made freely and voluntarily by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict for Miles Collins?
Yes.
Was it your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 12, did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.?
Yes.
Was this your verdict in the jury room?
Yes.
Was it freely and voluntarily made by you?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
And then I have alternate 1 that was seated. Thank you. Sir, did you hear me read David Jared Booker's verdict? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read verdict against Miles Collins? Was it this the verdict was this a verdict in the your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Did you hear me read the verdict against Josiah Hewley Jr.? Was this your verdict in the jury room? Was it freely and voluntarily made by you? Is it still your verdict? Thank you. Anything else before I release the jury?
That'll be after. Thank you, Judge.
The only thing I would ask, Your Honor, is to advise them that if they wish, certainly they do not have to, we would be delighted to talk to them if they would wish to, but at the same time, that if they do not wish to talk to us, that is certainly their prerogative. And at least on behalf of Mr. Collins, we would like to express our appreciation for their service.
Mr.
No, ma'am, thank you.
Mr. Melvin?
Thanks from the state.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to release you to the deliberation room, and I'm going to come back and talk to you, and then we will proceed with sentencing.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, I'll be a few minutes. And I'll advise them of their appellate rights. That's fine, yeah, yeah. All right, we will begin the sentencing process for each defendant. Go ahead, Mr. Melvin.
Your Honor, in regards to all defendants, as the state understands the convictions on the indictment, we do have some offenses that will merge.
Right,
Your Honor, we believe that the defendants are subject after merger to sentencing on count 1, which is felony murder based on the aggravated assault,
right,
on count 2, and on count 3.
right,
Life, count 1 will carry life or life without. Count 2 carries a sentence of 5 to 20. Count 3 carries a sentence of 5 to 20. Your Honor, the gang statute was amended last year to say the 5 has to be served in prison. So it really is a distinction without a difference since we have life, but we are going forward under the 2022 statute. Your Honor, it's the
wait a
state's.
minute, it's 5 to 20, right?
Yes, ma'am,
And
5 to
consecutive.
20.
Yeah, consecutive.
That being said, since it's felony murder based on ag assault, the individual ag assault of count 4 will merge.
Right, into
Gang
count 1, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
It's the state's understanding as well that counts 5 and 6 will be subsumed up into that merger. Since we have felony murder based
Hold
on
on.
ag assault, the felony murder of count 7 on hijacking.
Fine, go, rewind,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Melvin. Count 5 and count 6,
Those are the gang participation counts into the ag assault.
ag assault. So they, when the ag assault merges, those gangs charges fall.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right.
That leaves us with felony murder count 7, which will merge along with the felony murder ag assault.
Hold on. Count 7, the felony murder by hijacking motor vehicle, I would need to vacate.
Correct.
Right,
Vacate by
okay.
operation of law. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
all right.
Sorry.
No, I just want to make sure I'm following. Thank you.
With that vacated, that'll cause count 8 and count 9 to vacate as well.
Okay,
That leaves us with count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle, and 1615-4 says,
does not.
I'm sorry, not 1615-4. Yeah, 16-541.1, paragraph D, says it has a non-merger provision, so
Right.
the hijacking a motor vehicle will stand. As such, the count 11, count 12 will stand, and the hijacking a motor vehicle is a 10 to 20.
Right,
The gang counts attached to that are 5 to 20 each.
right,
Count 13, possession of firearm by a convicted felon is a mandatory 5 consecutive to whatever the court sentences.
right,
Then we have counts 14 and 15, the gang acts, which will be 5 to 20. So the state understands that the liability is life, possibly life without parole, with up to 145 years. That's the state's understanding.
And as I understand it for sentencing, that will be 9 felonies. Go now.
Yes, ma'am.
3,
Counts 1, 2, 3,
6,
10, 11, 12,
Yeah.
13, 14, 15.
right. Be sentenced on 9 felonies.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
For each defendant.
Right, for each defendant, exactly.
Your Honor, in addition to the evidence that was produced at trial and the prior felony convictions of Mr. Booker, Mr. Collins, as well as the first offender of Mr. Hewley, the state would call 4 witnesses in victim impact at this time with the court's permission.
Certainly.
First witness we would call is Jeffrey Michael Coleman, the brother of his deceased. Mr. Coleman, if you'll come forward, I'll need to place you under oath, and then you can speak to the court about what you'd like to say. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the statement that you're about to give should be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you. Whatever you'd like to say.
I just want to let y'all know, man, Bradley Coleman, he was somebody, and he still is somebody.
And sir, I'm going to ask you to direct it to me
All right.
in the courtroom. Thank
Yeah,
you.
y'all took my brother, my only brother. And it's only the legacy that my brother left that's stopping me from putting hands and feet on all 3 of y'all. I swear to God. I hate y'all.
Mr. Coleman,
I need you to address what you'd like to see in sentencing, and for everyone, please
this,
do not address the
lock them up and throw away the key. That's it.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
Don, and I believe it's expose. Yes,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the
expose. Expose?
expose. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
He's a cousin of Mr. Sir, if you'll raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Sir, whatever comments you have, please address them to the court.
Okay. First off, Judge, thank you guys, thank the lawyers, everybody that participated to get what my family needs closure. What we're asking for is the highest, because we can't get him back. You know, I have to visit him somewhere that, you know, it's different. So my family need the closure. We appreciate the closure so we can move forward with the next chapter. This is one chapter now. His legacy and making sure his name live on is the next chapter. And at the end of the day, it's we prayed on this. We've gotten it. We just want everything to go forward where we can, because we can't visit Bradley where he is. We can pray on it. We all miss him. You know, as y'all see, we here every day.
Right.
And but Judge, as what we're asking for to finish this chapter is to make sure they get exactly what they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Expose.
Vanessa Harris. Ms. Harris, if you'll raise your right hand, you solemnly swear from the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
Judge, it has been 2 years, 6 months, 18 days, 4.5 hours since they took our beloved Bradley. I still remember the day that it happened, like it happened today, and parts of it still haunt me at this moment. I said, their heinous crimes have completely impacted and changed our lives forever. I cannot even begin to describe the feeling of disgust I have for each of them, because they were not man enough to get a job and go out there and buy the car that they want. They hunted my nephew down like a wounded animal and shot him dead for a car. For a car. I have no pity for either one of them. May they live the rest of their miserable lives behind bars, never to walk the grounds again. I have no pity. I feel so bad for them. I feel bad for them because, you know, I feel bad for their parents. They got their parents. Their parents should never have to experience what we have experienced. My sister lost her son. My brother-in-law lost his son. My nephew lost his brother. My beautiful niece lost her father. And they get to just sit here? No, they need to go to prison for the rest of their life. I have no pity. No pity. Now send them away to their forever home, prison. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
And finally, Judge, if you'll allow them to come up together, the father and mother of Mr. Cole.
Certainly.
Jeffrey, come in. Will you raise your hand? I solemnly swear affirm the testimony which I give in this matter to be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Thank you. Your Honor, on behalf of the Coleman family, we would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak before your courts and to speak about our wonderful son, Bradley Coleman. To the jury, thank you so much. Besides learning of the murder of our son and having to address the courts and to stand before these guys that murdered our son, this has absolutely been the hardest thing that we've ever had to do in life. Your Honor, may I reintroduce to you who our dear son, Bradley Coleman, who he was.
Certainly.
And how this senseless act of gun violence has affected my husband and I, his young daughter, our family, friends, and the community, and the world as a whole. Bradley was a wonderful man of God. He was a man of integrity. He was a man with a vision. He was born and raised right here in Gwinnett County. Bradley graduated from Norcross High School, where he played football and basketball. He earned a 4-year full scholarship to Southern University in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He graduated from Southern with 2 degrees, one in education
and the other one in interdisciplinary studies. As proud parents, Your Honor, Bradley was absolutely everything to us. He was a son that you would want. He was an awesome father, son, activist, coach, community leader, counselor, entrepreneur, humanitarian, a motivator, and an educator. Brad even taught children that transitioned out of the jail system back into society. He was impactful on and off the football field. He was just an ordinary guy that did extraordinary things, and he was loved and respected by so many. Bradley cherished his mother, his father, his daughter, his friends, his family, his students, and his student athletes. Bradley was such an amazing man. He often watched his father and observed how he would protect, he would love, he would provide, and care for our family. Brad vowed to be the same type of man and father that his daddy was to him. However, because of these three individuals' cold-blooded nature and their careless act of violence with no regards to human life, our granddaughter Amira now has to grow up without her father. She cries constantly to me, Your Honor, telling me how much she loved and misses her daddy. She said, Grandma, I was only 5 years old when they took my daddy from me. It's not fair that he's not here with me. She also misses spending time with her daddy. He picked her up from school every single day. He was present in her life. She cherished Daddy and Daughter Day. Every Friday he would pick her up, take her out for ice cream, take her to Target, she loved Target, and do a little shopping and give her special gifts. But now, due to their act of murder, she and Bradley will no longer be able to create memories with each other or share those special days anymore with each other, like Daddy and Daughter dance, her high school and college graduations. Her dad won't be able to walk her down the aisle when she gets married. He won't be able to experience being a grandfather. We will forever miss him, and we love him for all the things that he did in this life and for the things that he would never, ever get a chance to do because his life was snatched away from these three individuals. Bradley invested so much, Your Honor, into the community. He often encouraged his students to never give up on their dreams. He was such a loving teacher. He would drive the streets of New Orleans and go by known drug locations looking for his students who had been absent from school for days at a time. And he would encourage them to come back to school. That's just who he was. He did everything in his power to motivate them to do well and to continue their education. If his students did well, it was known for him to take them out, buy them the latest gym shoes that was out on the market. He did that too. And I remember him sharing with me one of his female students had gotten pregnant with little to no help from the father or her family. Brad made sure this child ate every single day. He bought her clothes and shoes, and he rallied around her and was that support system to her. He even got the co-workers, the other teachers in the school, and they threw her a baby shower to make sure when that unborn child was born, she had everything she needed for her baby. That's who my baby was. He was truly a gift to the world who inspired so many. And one of the most amazing things about him, Your Honor, I know they talked about how tall he was. He was 6 feet, 9 inches tall. But guess what? He was a gentle giant with a heart of gold. He gave so much, Your Honor, to so many people. And he never required anything back, never. And I remember when he passed away, he said, before he passed away, he said to me, Your Honor, he said, Mommy, you don't know who I am. You won't know till I'm gone. He said, you'll understand who I am. And my husband and I, we didn't understand. We knew Bradley was a good person. We knew he was a loving person, but we didn't understand until he was gone. So many people came to us and told us how much good he sowed into them. It blew my mind. And now I understand that my husband and I not only gave birth to a child, we gave birth to a legacy, because that's who he is. Bradley was known for feeding and clothing the homeless. Several times he literally took the shirt off his back and would bless a homeless person with. His heart was always, Your Honor, to serve and to give back to the community and to bless people that was less fortunate. He led and marched in the Black Lives Matter protest in Atlanta, Georgia. His vision led him to coordinate the Togetherness Project, which he led in the city of Norcross. The purpose of his project was to bridge the gap in the communities and shine light on systematic inequality and worldwide problems that we face in the world today. Bradley's entrepreneurial spirit led him to create his own clothing line, Posture Collection. He most definitely left his imprint on this world. Even though Bradley accomplished so much in such a short period of time on this earth, he still, Your Honor, has so much good to give. And for that, my husband and I are just so proud of him. We're so honored to be his parents. You know, all you want as a parent is for your children to do well. And Bradley, like I said, he was everything to her. He was a good soul. And he didn't deserve this. Your Honor? Oh, God.
It's okay. It's okay.
Jesus. Your Honor, we love him. And we miss him so much. Your Honor, a parent should never, ever have to bury their child. They're supposed to bury us. Especially over the theft of a car and gang status activity, for which this cold-hearted, cowardly act of violence has left my family devastated. Our son, Bradley Lamar Coleman, was shot in the head at point-blank range with the 9mm handgun, execution style, by these three individuals. The bullet entered his skull, traveled through his brains, and exited through his neck. He was shot and killed, left dying, choking on his blood, bleeding out on a hot pavement at a local Quick Trip. Your Honor, he didn't deserve that. His death certificate says that he died within seconds. Your Honor, they didn't show him no mercy. And because they wanted to take his car into gang status and gang activity, this is simply unconscionable. Our son, again, did not deserve it. My husband and I did not deserve it. His daughter did not deserve it. His friends and family did not deserve it. His student athletes, they did not deserve this. Our hearts have been deeply wounded. We do not want another parent, child, sister, relative, friend to suffer at the hands of these three individuals: Josiah Hughley, David Booker, Miles Collins, ever again. It's important that they don't ever have the freedom to commit another heinous crime like this again, and to bring so much pain and sorrow to another family ever in life. I have no doubt, Your Honor, in my spirit, if given the opportunity, they will do it again. Next time it may be your child, your grandchild, your husband, even you, Your Honor. Our prayer is that God would allow each of them to live a long, miserable life, and that they will rot in their prison cells for the rest of their miserable life for the murder of our son. They took a father away from a daughter, a 5-year-old daughter. They took a son, Your Honor, from their parents. They took a teacher and a coach from his students and student athletes. And they took a natural-born leader from this world. And now today, Your Honor, is the day of reckoning. That which they have sown, now shall they reap. Your Honor, due to this tragic and horrific manner in which our son Bradley Coleman was murdered, we respectfully ask that you show them no mercy as they showed my baby none. We also respectfully ask that each individual receive the maximum sentences for each guilty charge without parole. It is our sincere hope and deepest prayer, Your Honor, that you please take our request into consideration when making your decision on the sentencing. Your Honor, thank you and God bless you.
Let me just express to the Coleman family. Mr. and Mrs. Coleman, you're right. You should never have to bury a child. You should never have to bury a child. And it is my hope, because nothing we've done here over the last 3 weeks in this room can bring Bradley back. But it is my hope that you will begin healing after this is done, and that you will find some modicum of peace and be able to put him to rest and emulate him and honor him.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Your Honor, this being my first trial in front of this court, do you wish to hear from the state at the ending of the defendant's presentations or not?
It doesn't matter. You can go ahead, Mr. Melvin.
Thank you. Your Honor, in conclusion, the victim's family is asking for the maximum sentence, which is entirely appropriate for each of the defendants. Each of the defendants, Mr. Booker and Mr. Collins has a prior felony conviction, and Mr. Hewley had first offender. And they continued in that gang lifestyle until July 10th, 2022, when the three defendants went on a hunt again, prepared to kill. It's a mindset, it's a lifestyle, it's a pattern that has no place in Gwinnett County and deserves as much punishment as you can mete out. Your Honor, I said in closing argument, let justice roll like a mighty river. And the reason for that is because justice has a very rehabilitative effect. You stand in the unique position of being a part of the healing of the Coleman family, and we would ask for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melvin. Mr. Lewis.
Good evening, Judge. David Booker has elected, Judge, respectfully not to testify, and there are no other witnesses that have appeared on David Booker's behalf. Mr. Booker does have family who's been in communication with me, but they elected not to come. They thought, at least Mr. Booker's mother thought that it would be a little bit too much for her to stand and watch the trial. Judge, I'm going to respectfully ask, very simply, for a sentence of life with the possibility of parole on count 1, plus 5 years in prison on count 13, which is the only count that has to be run consecutive. As my client sits here today, Judge, he's 23 and a half years old, and a life with the possibility of parole sentence plus 5 years, as the court knows, will make him eligible for parole in 35 years at the earliest, at which time he'll be 58 and a half years old. I don't want to call 58 and a half years old an old man, because I'm 58 and a half years old, but obviously all of the run and gun is out of a person by the time they reach 58 and a half years old. Judge, count 10, as I understand it, doesn't merge with counts 1, 2, and 3, so I'm going to ask the court to sentence my client to 10 years, run concurrent to the life with the possibility of parole sentence, and counts 2, 3, 11, 12, 14, and 15 being gang charged. I'm going to ask the court to sentence my client to 10 years on those gang charges, also run concurrent. As I mentioned before, count 13, the gun charge, has to be consecutive, and so the sentence I'm asking the court for is life with the possibility of parole plus 5 years in prison, which obviously is a lawful sentence. Thank you very much, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Mr. Clegg?
Yes, thank you, Judge. I am also going to ask that Mr. Collins be sentenced to, on count 1, life with the possibility of parole. You are aware that the only 2 options you have are either a life sentence or a life without the possibility of parole sentence. You have heard the evidence in the case. You know what the jury has found as to what role they believe Mr. Collins to have committed. There is no evidence to suggest that he got out of the car. There is no evidence to show that he necessarily had a gun during the course of the incident. There is no evidence to show that he fired a shot. Be that as it may, the jury has returned its verdict. He would have been 20 years old at the time of the commission of this offense. His date of birth is February the 1st of 2002. He will turn 23 in a few days. His mom is here. She has been here a number of days. There are several days she couldn't come, but she has been a constant support to him. She has called me on a regular basis and kept up with him. No matter what happens to Mr. Collins, his mom will be there for him, and she will provide support for the rest of his life. I understand as to the hijacking code section, there is a non-merger clause. I'm a little bit confused as to that. To be honest with you, I would think it would merge into count 7, the felony murder in the commission of the hijacking charge, which in turn merges into count 1. I do not know the definitive legal answer to that question, but I would echo Mr. Lewis's argument and ask you to impose a sentence of 10 years concurrent with a life sentence with the possibility of parole. Obviously, on count 13, he has to get 5 years consecutive. I will concede the point that that has to be consecutive. As to the various gang charges, he can get anywhere between 5 and 20. I would ask you to give him 5 years on each of those charges, again, to run concurrent. He's going to be, at best, 50 years old, maybe 55 years old, if he is given the opportunity to be sentenced to life without parole, or to sentenced with life with the possibility of parole. I have noticed, and in my interpretation, in my opinion, every time recently I go to trial and lose a case on a murder case, there's an automatic recommendation of life without parole. When I started out, you could get paroled after a murder conviction in 7 years. Went to 14 years, went to 20 years, is now at 30 years. And now if you have the audacity, to some extent, to insist upon a trial, then the prosecution seems of the opinion that the only appropriate sentence is life without the possibility of parole. I ask you to consider his youth. I ask you to consider the specific role that he played in this particular offense based on the evidence we have before us. I do not think sending him to prison for the rest of his natural life is appropriate under the circumstances. I think a life sentence is a long, long, long time. And as you well know, there is no guarantee that if an individual gets life with the possibility of parole, he will in fact be paroled. It only gives him that possibility, that hope. Taking hope away from a young kid is a hard thing to do. If that's what you wish to do, then by all means go ahead and impose a sentence of life without parole. But I don't think under the facts and circumstances of this case, that is warranted.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. Ms. Drake?
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, to Mr. Coleman's parents and all of his friends that are here, my sincerest condolences. I always say this, and I try to make it a rule not to interact so much with the family because it is kind of a different situation. I don't want them to think I'm being disrespectful, though I have had some words with the family just because we've seen each other every day for however many weeks. Also, on behalf of my client, Josiah, he wanted me to tell you how sorry he was. He heard you, he understands you, and he acknowledges your pain. And he's very, very remorseful for where this went on that particular day. Your Honor, life without parole in this case, I understand the state asking for that, and I would also reiterate what Mr. Clegg has said. It seems like, yes, if you have a trial, the ante's always up, whereas it might not have been without a trial. Your Honor, my client, I wanted to point out several things from him. His father is here. He is an over-the-road truck driver, so unfortunately he had not been able to be here the whole time. My client was 3 months into being 20 years old when this occurred. He is currently 22 years old. As the state pointed out, he did not have any convictions. He had a first offender sentence, which was never taken away by the judge in Fulton County. He had been employed, you heard in his interview. All of it was not shared, but the judge, you've seen the 3-hour interview. He had been working, but due to the company changing locations, he had just been hired that particular day that he was arrested. He did give a statement. He did show remorse in his interview. More than one time he said it was not supposed to go that way. It was not supposed to happen that way. Your Honor, when I first met Josiah, I was really concerned about his mental health at that point because he was basically reiterating that. He just kept saying that was not the way it was supposed to go. And he did show remorse in our meetings. Your Honor, he has been a good son. He does have 2 sisters, 10 and 11, that prior to this arrest that he was helping with his father to take care of because of the work that he does. Life without parole, I would offer to the court, is a sentence for someone who has no redeemable qualities, that they do not even deserve a place in humanity, and they have no hope of being rehabilitated. I would just ask for you to consider my client's age, the statement that he did give to the police, and the things that he had done and not done prior to his arrest in this case. Thank you.
Anything further from either side?
No, thank you, Judge.
Okay. All right. Mr. Booker? On count 1, felony murder, I am sentencing you to life without the possibility of parole. On count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, I am sentencing you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. On count 3, I'm sentencing you, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Then we move down to count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism Prevention Act. In count 11, I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act, I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism and Prevention Act, I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. And count 15, I sentence you, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism Prevention Act, 20 years consecutive to count 14. If the deputies would take Mr. Booker.
You got to do his appellate rights, Judge.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, let me go ahead and do that so we can. Mr. David Booker, you've now been convicted of 15 felonies. You've been sentenced on 9 felonies because the other either vacate. There are 6 of them that either vacate by law or merge. I need to inform you that you have a right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for a new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign your sentence, which will be today or tomorrow, to file the motion for new trial on any or all of the 9 felony charges. Mr. Lewis, are you going to file a motion for new trial or notice of appeal?
Yes, I'll handle that tomorrow, Judge.
Okay. You also have 4 years from the date of your sentence is final to file a habeas corpus petition. I'm going to appoint you an appellate lawyer to handle your case. Your appellate lawyer will explain these processes, but I wanted you to know the legal time frames for which you're required to follow. Mr. Lewis is going to file the 2 motions that are required in 30 days to preserve your rights, and then I will appoint you appellate counsel who will be in touch with you. Anything, Mr. Lewis?
That's it, Judge.
Thank you.
Stepping back.
All right, if you could take Mr. Booker into custody. Mr. Collins, count 1, excuse me. Count 1, which is felony murder, predicate act is aggravated assault. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, which is violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. Count 3, violation of Street Gang and Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Count 10, hijacking motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. Count 15, which is a violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 14. Mr. Collins, you have now been convicted of 15 felonies but sentenced to 9 because 6 of them by operation of law either merge into the others or are vacated. I need to inform you, you have the right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign your sentence, which should be today or tomorrow, to file a motion for new trial to any or all of the felony charges. Mr. Clegg, are you going to file a motion for new trial and a notice of appeal?
I will file a motion for new trial within the next day or so, Your Honor. It will be a bare bones motion, as you well know. I would ask you to then appoint appellate counsel
Certainly.
on Mr. Collins' behalf so that he may preserve all of his possible remedies for appeal.
Certainly. Mr. Collins, you also have 4 years from the date your sentence is final to file a habeas corpus petition. And as Mr. Clegg requested, I will be appointing you an appellate lawyer. Your appellate attorney will explain these processes, but I wanted you to be aware of the timeframes. Anything else, Mr. Clegg?
No, Your Honor, nothing else.
Okay, Mr. Collins can go with the deputies.
Hope y'all happy.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Family, the family of Mr. Coleman, the family of Mr. Coleman, the family of Mr. Coleman, look at me, the family of Mr. Coleman. Honor Bradley Coleman here. Honor Bradley Coleman. He is never coming back. Nothing that happens in this courtroom is going to bring Bradley Coleman back. Okay. Josiah Hewley. I can't see him. Mr. Hewley, count 1, felony murder. I sentence you to life without the possibility of parole. Count 2, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 1. Count 3, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 2. Count 10, hijacking a motor vehicle. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 3. Count 11, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 10. Count 12, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 11. Count 13, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. I sentence you to 5 years consecutive to count 12. Count 14, violation of Street Gang Terrorism Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 13. Count 15, violation of Street Gang Terrorism and Prevention Act. I sentence you to 20 years consecutive to count 14. Mr. Hewley, you have now been convicted of 15 felonies, 6 of which either merge or vacate as an operation of law, so you'll be sentenced on 9 felonies. I need to inform you that you have the right to seek post-judgment relief from your felony convictions by either filing a direct appeal to a higher appellate court or to file a motion for new trial. You have 30 days from the date I sign and file your sentence with the clerk, which should be tomorrow, to file a motion for new trial to any or all of the felony charges. Ms. Drake, will you be filing a motion for new trial?
Yes, ma'am, and I did explain to my client why my appointment could not, or should not continue on this case, and I would ask the court to appoint him appellate counsel.
Right. Mr. Hewley, as Ms. Drake has probably explained to you, your appellate counsel will review everything, including Ms. Drake's representation of you, to make sure that all your appellate rights are pursued. You also have 4 years from the date your sentence is final with this court, which should be tomorrow, to file a habeas corpus. I will appoint an appellate attorney who will be in contact with you and explain all these procedures to you. You just need to know the time frame, and Ms. Drake is going to file the appropriate motion so that the 30 days does not run.
Your Honor, may I just ask the court's preference if you would like for the attorneys to file motions to withdraw with our motions for new trial, or just?
It's not necessary.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not necessary. I'll just appoint appellate counsel,
Yes, ma'am.
probably tomorrow.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, I think I have to wait until you file the motion to appoint them. So it won't be tomorrow, but Mr. Hewley, I will appoint you appellate counsel. Thank you. You can go with the deputies.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Drake. Is there anything I need to take up from the state? Anything to the, okay, thank you.
Pleasure to try a case in your court.
Love to see you, Mr. Clegg. Court is adjourned. Thank you.